My name is Grayson Stallings, and this is a project video for the Facilitating Creative Thinking course by Professor Hay. The purpose for this project was to put into practice techniques learned in this course as I approached a passion for tasting whiskey. Through a group of friends, I was introduced to the world of whiskey through a tasting where we went through different stages to further an appreciation for the craft behind the taste. I then had the opportunity to join Shanghai Whiskey Live event in 2012, where I worked as an ambassador in the education zone. Through this experience, I was able to speak to the Chinese consumer and encourage them to taste the craft of whiskey and not just consume it. Upon receiving the project details for this course, I had several options but ultimately chose Whiskey Live as the opportunity excited me the most. I posed the question of, can we find creative opportunities and improvements for Whiskey Live to the other ambassadors? Their interests were immediately seized, and I began to create the framework for the 2 sessions needed for this project. The participants that helped with this project came from various countries, backgrounds, and fields of work, but they all shared one thing in common: an appreciation for whiskey. As these individuals worked in a constantly changing city and field, the amount of barriers that they had was quite small. This made it easier for them to take a task, work together in a group, and then be open to each other's ideas and concepts. As the structure for this session began to form, the value proposition took shape, giving further clarity for the intentions of this project. For the organizers and ambassadors of Whiskey Live who want to seek opportunities and ways to improve the user experience, this project would provide insights into creating an expo unlike other Shanghai expos. We do this by using several methods for stimulating creativity and lateral thinking, with narratives being paired with whiskeys, creating an unlikely but thought-provoking pairing. Unlike other group thought or brainstorming sessions, the structure, environment, and models used in this project would stimulate lateral thinking through the use of pairings, as participants would move away from the logical decision-making process and proceed down an absurd path that leads to creative opportunities. Life is more enjoyable with pairings. From food, drink, activities, and watching 2 actors interact in a movie, we enjoy 2 or more items that deepen our appreciation and broaden our perspective. Influenced by Daniel H. Pink's writings on the upcoming conceptual age, I paired whiskey with a world of narratives to give the sessions a more empathetic edge. This brought the focus back to the user's perspective on the experience and not the product of whiskey. For this project, I knew that the environment would be important in setting the tone for the creative sessions. A classy boardroom served us well as we met for informal fellowship time before the session. Paper on the wall, colored sticky notes, and journals helped instill a creative vibe before the session began. For the final session, participants took 2 systems and forced assumptions and comparisons that led to lateral thinking. This method was supported by the unique model. This model used for the project was the Whiskey Plus Narrative Journal, designed and made to form a structure where participants could place ideas to be used later. As they tasted whiskeys, crafted personas, and recorded narratives, their thinking broadened outside the sessions. Upon arriving for the final session, they were ready to implement their findings. This was vital for the overall narrative direction, as it removed the time-consuming part of thinking of a narrative and allowed time and lateral thinking. The first session consisted of 2 activities. The icebreaker opened participants up as they got to know each other through story introductions. They quickly fell into their expertise as whiskey ambassadors when they completed a tasting within their groups. What came next surprised them, as they didn't give me their thoughts on the tasting, but created a persona that represented the whiskey. As laughs and acting commenced, the barriers fell, and the participants began to view the world of whiskey from a different point of view. Here are the introductions to 2 of these personas.
Let's go, baby.
Hi, my name's Brittany. And now I was gonna do Wisconsin, but I'm cunt. I am from the deep south, Carolina. I love it. I love my blonde hair, and I'm proud to come from the US of A.
Oh, yeah.
I'm 18 years old, and I'm just recently, I like to drink underage. I love to do tequila shots. They're my favorite. But it's also partying on the bar. I'm actually trying to get into a university will actually take me.
I'm 50 years old and I'm rather spicy. But I used to be a teacher, but I really made my sort of success writing novels. You may have seen me somewhere in the back of the store. I like the cricket, smashing the Aussies, and I like to spend time with the ladies. Stop it. Very old trick. Still believe I've got it. Run rings around the young chaps and all that. Really? That's a cigarette holder right here. Yeah. He's always been a bit of a flawed genius. He's rather insecure at heart.
After spending a week of tasting whiskeys and practicing creativity within the narrative, the Whiskey Connoisseurs group met once again. The goal of the second session was to find multiple solutions to make Whiskey Life a better event for the consumer. To start our session, we began looking at the different stages of a narrative. Participants then took their homework and created sticky notes for each of these stages. The participants were split into two groups based on their previous experience in being ambassadors at Whiskey Life. They determined the different user touch points and if they were painful or pleasure points. They then created an affinity map that further exposed each point. Next, they took the sticky notes made for the narrative exercise and transferred them over to the affinity map. Discoveries of opportunity began to pop up to the surface as they tried to find the different and good solution. At the end of this session, participants were equally charged with creativity, but weary as they gave their very all to the project. They were challenged in their lateral thinking as they didn't jump into the normal routine of a problem-solving meeting. They told me at the end that I took them off guard with each session. It all came together as I explained lateral thinking at the end of the session. This happened because they actually experienced it before I told them what they would experience. As I conducted interviews, topics focused on being free to think, challenged by constraints, and open to the use of narrative and other walks of life was visited. The structure of the sessions was very different than business brainstorming sessions, as one told me that brainstorming was unhinged during these past sessions. This project was a success as I was able to lead a group through a journey that resulted in creative thinking. It all came down to the plus sign, as it represented an explosion of ideas. As Don Norman said, stories have the fallacious capacity of capturing exactly those elements that formal decision methods leave out. Logic tries to generalize, to strip the decision-making from the specific context, to remove it from the subjective emotions. Environment was also crucial in the success of this event. Although space was an issue, the decor really spoke into the event. The informal atmosphere established with wings and whiskey and fellowship was also a catalyst. Trust in each other and a willingness to venture set this group apart, as I was thankful to have them for my first project within this field. In closing, I am excited about finishing this project as it was the first step in working with Whiskey Life. Already there is talk about taking this intro course to the next level as we conduct a post-event meeting while our opportunities and ideas are still fresh. I am looking forward to sharpening my tools and facilitating skills as we further the ideas and concepts birthed in these first sessions. The participants armed me with confidence and insight that has helped me remove dross and focus on the areas in need of improvement. I'm looking forward to working with these creative vessels once again.